This video is titled, "Don't Get a Prenup, Do This Instead." And before you react to that, I'm not saying don't protect yourself. I'm saying that most people are using the wrong tool and it breaks when they need it most. So what's the difference between a prenuptial agreement and an asset protection trust? And why should you care? Let's break it down. Setting up an asset protection trust is simple in concept. You do it yourself, quietly, strategically, with guidance from experienced professionals like our team. No awkward conversations, no negotiations, no lawyers sitting across the table talking about what happens when your marriage fails before it even begins. It's like putting your assets in a vault before anybody thinks about robbing the bank. Now compare that to a prenup. You hire a lawyer. Your future spouse hires a lawyer. And now, before the wedding, you're negotiating the terms of your potential divorce. I mean, think about that. You're planning the breakup before you even started the marriage. I like to say it's stepping into the boxing ring with two referees, each trying to score points for their fighter. Not exactly romantic and not exactly a strong foundation. Now let's add reality. According to the American Psychological Association, about 40 to 50% of first marriages end in divorce. Second marriages, closer to 60%. That's not negativity, that's just data. And if you have real assets, a business, real estate, investment accounts, you're not just protecting money, you're protecting your life's work. And that's where most people go wrong. They think prenup equals protection. It doesn't, at least not the way you think, because a prenup is a contract and contracts can be challenged, not rarely, routinely. So when a divorce happens, opposing counsel doesn't just accept your prenup. They jab to attack it. They look for leverage, weaknesses, any angle they can use. And they don't need to destroy the whole agreement. They just need to weaken it. So they'll argue things like, you didn't fully disclose everything. Your spouse felt pressure to sign. The terms were unfair. Circumstances changed. And now, when you thought it was locked in, it's back to the table. I've seen this over and over again in my profession. Let me give you a real world style scenario. A client, let's call him Mark, successful, several million in assets, did everything right. Got a prenup, signed it, filed it, done. 6 years later, the marriage breaks down. Divorce gets aggressive. Opposing counsel challenges the prenup. Says there was pressure. Says the agreement was unfair. Says the structure no longer applies. And suddenly, instead of protection, Mark is fighting over the prenup itself. Now think about that. The thing that was supposed to simplify everything became the first battle. Now here's the deeper issue. Prenups rely on cooperation. Divorce, however, is conflict. And that's the mismatch. Now let's shift, because this is where strategy changes everything. And asset protection trust works differently, completely differently. It doesn't rely on your spouse agreeing. It doesn't rely on attorneys negotiating, and it doesn't rely on a judge interpreting the contract. It changes ownership. And that's the key. When assets are placed into a properly structured trust, they are no longer legally yours. They belong to your trust instead. And in a divorce, courts divide what you own. So if you don't own it, that changes the conversation. Okay, now let's go ahead and go one level deeper, because not all trusts are equal. A basic revocable trust, that's estate planning. That does not protect you. So we're talking about is true asset protection, a true asset protection trust, and ideally an offshore trust, like a Cook Islands trust, like the ones I've set up for about 30 years. Now, here's where people hesitate. They think, if I give this up, I lose control. That's not how it works. In a properly designed structure, you remain in control while everything is calm. You manage the LLC that the trust owns. You're the manager. You direct investments. You live your life normally. But when a legal threat shows up, that's when the structure shifts. A licensed bonded trustee outside U.S. jurisdiction steps in, and now the assets are no longer under your direct control. And more importantly, they're no longer within easy reach of the court. And that's the key concept. Control during calm, separation during danger. Most people never understand that. Now, let's go ahead and fast forward again. Same situation. Divorce, aggressive attorney. If you have a prenup, they attack the agreement. When you have a trust, the question becomes, can we even reach these assets? And that changes everything. Leverage shifts immediately. I've been doing this for 35 years, nearly 30, setting up Cook Islands trusts. And I'll tell you something very directly. We have never seen a properly structured offshore trust that we've established fail in a divorce. when it was set up in advance. Not because courts don't try, they do, but because jurisdiction matters, structure matters, control matters. Now here's a counterintuitive truth. The strongest asset protection strategy is not the one that wins in court. It's the one that removes you from the fight entirely. Now let's go ahead and make this clear. This is not about hiding assets. This is about structuring them legally before the problem starts. Now, when a divorce is filed, there's this thing called a financial restraining order. So you cannot move assets, borrow against the assets, and so on. So that's why this is so important, especially in a divorce, to get this set up as early as possible before the problem starts. So timing is everything. And if you wait, your options shrink fast. And here's the irony. A prenup conversation feels uncomfortable because it's confrontational. The trust strategy, on the other hand, private, strategic, no permission required. Completely different dynamic. Now, does that mean prenups have no place? No, they can still play a role. But if you're relying on a prenup as your main protection, you're relying on something that can be challenged, interpreted, and negotiated. A properly structured trust changes the game before it starts and puts you in control. Okay, so what do high-level, sophisticated individuals who contact us do differently? They don't wait. They don't rely on one lawyer. They don't confuse paperwork with protection. They focus on control, leverage, and jurisdiction. So if you want to learn more about how this works, you can visit us at assetprotectionplanners.com just to get educated, no pressure. And if this is the kind of thing that resonates with you, subscribe. We go deeper into real strategies here. So check to see if you're subscribed right now, because I want to see you again. Final thought. Marriage is emotional. Asset protection is strategic. The mistake is treating them the same, because when everything is on the line, the structure you choose early is the one that you live with. This is The Business Guy. We'll see you in the next one.